Welcome to Fantastic History. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Clay.
We're a husband and wife duo who enjoy telling each other about amazing events, people, and mysteries throughout history. I'm back at it again with my Trials of the Century series.
Oh my gosh.
I know. And I want to come clean, like right at the top here. Like, the trials that aren't about murder simply are not interesting to me.
Well, they don't seem to be very interesting to most people because how many trials of the century aren't about murder?
Well, I'm about to name a few of them that I'm skipping over, quite frankly. So there were a handful, because the last one we did was Fatty Arbuckle in the 1920s.
Yep.
We'll be skipping ahead about 30 years because there were multiple non-murder stories, and like, I'm sorry, but I'm a true crime girly through and through, like just a purebred sicko. Like, I know we've talked about that in the past, and it is what it is, but here we are. Because of that, I'm skipping over like major things that like you've definitely heard of, and they are interesting. Mm-hmm. Just like not.
Well, like what?
Okay, so like the Scopes monkey trial, when a teacher in Tennessee was prosecuted for teaching evolution.
Oh.
Yeah, that one. And we're also skirting around stuff that seems like it's right in my wheelhouse, like Al Capone's tax evasion trial.
Oh, that's a good one.
But it's not about all the cool shit he did. It's about the fact he didn't pay his taxes. And let me assure you, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, those two don't have the same oomph to them, do they?
No, they don't. And then there was another one where Gloria Vanderbilt, as a child, there was a custody battle between her mom and one of her paternal aunts, and it's like, I don't care. There's also the Nuremberg trials. That's a pretty big one, but like, yeah. I just like, that's something that would be interesting to me if you did an episode on it.
And even then.
Yeah, but like, to me, it's not something that like I want to spend the hours of research to write it myself. I'll happily listen to you talk about it for 20 or 30 minutes, but like, I'm not giving hours of my time on the like, come on.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. So, there's also stuff that I don't really want to talk about because it's just like, it's a little bit too like horrifying. Like the Scottsboro Boys trial, which was a white lady claimed that she was raped by 12 black boys.
Yeah.
This is pure racism and like just inflammatory nonsense. I don't really want to talk about that. I also don't want to talk about the Lindbergh baby trial.
Yeah.
Because I don't like to talk about bad things happening to kids.
Yep.
I also don't want to spend a lot of time talking about a Nazi sympathizer who was super into eugenics like Charles Lindbergh.
Yeah.
I'm all set. Now, there is a trial I'm skipping over, a murder trial, that's awesome, but I can't talk about it because you already covered Leopold and Loeb way back in episode 34.
I did, and it did involve a child, unfortunately,
yeah.
But there was a lot more going on than just that.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So this is Trials of the Century, asterisk, murder.
Right. And the whole reason why I'm kind of going through and telling you all the things that I'm not going to talk about is so that, like, if you are interested in non-murdery Trials of the Century, like, here's a list of things to look into, because I'm sure not going to do it for you.
Sure, this isn't a comprehensive list. You're not doing an episode on every single trial of the century.
Right.
Okay, that's fair enough.
With all those kind of swept under the rug, that brings us all the way up to 1954.
Okay.
And the trial of Sam Sheppard.
Sam Sheppard. Now, that sounds really familiar to me.
There's an actor with that name.
Yeah.
It is not the actor.
Oh, man.
I know. Sorry. All right. So let me paint you a picture. It's the 1950s, and we're in Bay Village, Ohio, which is like this bougie suburb of Cleveland right on Lake Erie. Dr. Sam Sheppard is living what looks like the American dream. He's 30 years old, movie star handsome, working as an osteopath at his family's hospital.
Okay.
Now, for those who don't know, an osteopath is like a regular doctor, but with some extra training on like hands-on treatment. So he's kind of like a combination doctor and physical therapist.
Okay.
Now, back in the 50s, they weren't quite as respected as regular MDs, which is partly why the Sheppard family had their own hospital where they could do their osteopath stuff, because other doctors aren't necessarily wanting to work with them. And they're like, oh, well, fuck you, bye. I'll just build my own hospital.
That's pretty strange, especially in today having essentially a private hospital to that degree.
Oh, yeah. I can't think of any.
No, not around here, at least.
No. So in addition to like, he's got this great career going, he's also got a beautiful wife named Marilyn, who at this time is 4 months pregnant with their second child. They also have a 7-year-old son, Sam Jr., but he's called Chip. They're living in this gorgeous lakefront home that had beach access, to Lake Erie. Like, these people have it made. And he's 30. He's freaking killing it.
Yeah, got set up pretty nicely there.
Poor choice of words on my part. Sorry about that. Killing it.
Oh, killing it.
Yeah, sorry.
The
fact that you just stared at me.
It didn't even occur to me because it sounds so natural.
I do say that a lot. Well, on July 3rd, 1954, Sam and Marilyn hosted this like very super typical suburban dinner party for their neighbors. Like, tomorrow's the 4th of July. I'm sure there was like a cookout involved or something. But after like the dinner portion, everyone settled in to watch a movie called Strange Holiday. So I guess back in the 50s, before like VCRs and stuff, it was normal to just like have a bunch of people over your house and make a huge event of it to watch a movie on television.
That sounds fairly reasonable.
Yeah. Like I just never, in our lifetime, I've never heard of adults having like a dinner party to watch a movie at home. So
it does seem a little strange, but I do remember the Mertzes going over to the Ricardos pretty often to watch TV.
Yeah, that's a good
thing.
point. Yeah. Okay, so that's fair. Well, I will say, because I'm sure you're curious as I was, that I looked up this movie, Strange Holiday.
Yeah.
Because I had never heard of it before. I'm just, of course you're going to be curious, like what sort of movie people plan a whole meal around in mid-century Ohio. The answer is that it's a weird one.
Sure.
It stars absolutely nobody that I've ever heard of in my entire life.
Okay.
And the plot is basically this guy goes on a weekend fishing trip and comes home to find that all of America is overrun with fascists.
Oh, crap.
Yeah. Bummer.
Yeah.
Can't imagine what that's like. But the movie ends with him waking up from a nap while he's still on his fishing trip.
Okay.
So the whole entire plot of the movie was just like this guy was having a bad dream.
Yeah, that's not so uncommon. But very annoying. Nonetheless.
Yeah, like definitely less common now because like people are so tired of it. And that's probably why we've never heard of this movie, because it sounds like shit.
Well, it sounds like a classic Red Scare type movie.
Oh, for sure.
I woke, oh my gosh, the country's been invaded. It was just a dream. Or was it?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I digress. Sam, who was probably exhausted from doctoring all day, fell asleep in the living room during this weird-ass waste of celluloid. So Marilyn walked the guests out at the end of the night, like all of them would testify to this later. Everything is more or less normal up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But then all hell breaks loose. According to Sam, he's awakened by his wife's screams.
Uh-oh.
Coming from their bedroom. He runs upstairs and sees what he calls a form. Which, like, okay, weird choice of words instead of like a guy or a person.
Yeah.
This form is standing over Marilyn in a vaguely threatening way. When he tries to intervene, this form knocks him unconscious. When he comes to again, he checks on Marilyn and finds her lying on the bed, also unconscious, and brutally beaten. 35 blows to the head, like that level of brutality. The bedroom is covered in blood splatter, with drops of blood found all throughout the rest of the house.
Oh my God.
Sam then hears a noise downstairs, and because I guess getting knocked out once was not enough, he chases the intruder out of the house and down to the beach. They have another struggle, and Sam gets knocked unconscious for a second time. He wakes up with his lower body in the lake. His t-shirt is gone, and his pants are partially pulled down.
Okay.
Now, I should mention that at no point was Sam able to give a solid timeline, because he went from napping during the movie to being knocked unconscious to finding Marilyn's body to being knocked unconscious again and then waking up in the lake.
Yeah.
So, of course, he has no idea what the hell time it is at all. The only thing we know for certain time-wise is that at 5:45 a.m. on July 4th, Sam called his neighbor, who just so happened to be the mayor of Bay Village, because of course he is. It's the bougie neighborhood. He says to the mayor, "For God's sake, Spin, get over here. I think they've killed Marilyn." Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm a homicide detective, I'm arresting Sam on the spot. Like, one of the most common things a murderer will do is downplay what happened to the victim, saying things like if a cop or a detective was to say, "Did you kill your wife?" they would respond with something like, "I would never hurt her." Because hurt is less harsh and inflammatory than kill. Right. They can't even bring themselves to say it. Or, I don't know, saying something like, "I think they killed Marilyn," when it couldn't have been more obvious that she was like so dead.
Yeah.
You know? Add to that the detective shows up to a scene where the husband has this elaborate story about getting knocked out multiple times by a form who he also goes on to describe as a bushy-haired intruder. Like, of course, they're going to have some questions for this guy.
Yeah, getting knocked out like that, it's Hollywood.
Yes. What an incredible coincidence that you were sleeping so soundly that somebody was able to break into your house and follow your wife upstairs.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the whole thing is just kind of like, okay, wow, you are the most unlucky guy in the world. Now, unfortunately, the detectives and police assigned to this case were absolutely terrible at their jobs. The handling of the crime scene almost could not have been worse than it was. They let reporters literally walk through the house while they were still processing the scene.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. They didn't properly secure the scene at all. Like, they didn't even check to see if Marilyn had been sexually assaulted. Which you would think, if nothing else, the fact that Sam was allegedly found with his pants pulled partially down and his shirt off after being knocked unconscious, like, we should make sure that these people aren't just like diddling.
Well, you should check no matter what. I mean,
yes, for sure.
What is the motive?
Yes,
for attacking Marilyn? Well, that's a pretty good motive.
Oh yeah,
sexual assault. It's pretty common, especially if I guess they didn't have time to burgle.
Right. But that's the thing. If he's asleep downstairs and she's upstairs, if you came in the house to steal stuff, get it and get out.
Yeah. Don't just spend time beating her to a pulp when you could just apparently knock people out with one blow.
Right.
It seems like pretty good at it.
Right. It just, there's a lot of things that really don't add up, that like, it's very, very strange.
Yeah.
And like, if Marilyn was the target and her husband is downstairs sound asleep, you'd take him out while he can't fight back, because otherwise he's going to do exactly what he did. He's going to wake up and come running and try to defend her.
Yep.
Right? So like, there's just a lot of things that aren't adding up, and the police were just like fucking off, not really doing much of anything. Like, just very like police work 101 just out the window.
Right.
They're failing at every turn. Now here's where things really get messy. The Sheppard family owned Bayview Hospital, as I mentioned, and Sam's brothers immediately whisked him away for treatment at their facility instead of taking him to the local hospital to be looked at for like defensive wounds, to see if he had a concussion, like all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
Now, was this just a family taking care of their own? Like, that's definitely possible. But to the press and the public, it looked like the wealthy Sheppard family was closing ranks to protect Sam and being in complete control of what the doctor's reports are going to say about him.
Yeah, that does make it tricky, especially, I guess he wasn't even taken into police custody for questioning.
Nope.
Ahead of this?
Nope.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the press, oh my God.
Did they love this or what?
Oh my, they loved it, girl. It's a trial of the century. Like, what are we here for? The coverage of this case was absolutely unhinged, no holds barred. We're going to say every thought that comes into our heads, kind of like it was with Patty Arbuckle, frankly.
Sure.
The Cleveland Press, led by editor Louis Seltzer, basically appointed themselves judge, jury, and executioner. They were running headlines like, "Why isn't Sam Sheppard in jail?" and "Do it now, Dr. Gerber." Now, that second headline was demanding that the coroner, Dr. Samuel Gerber, hold a public inquest.
Okay.
And this absolute clown of a coroner was like, "Yas, queen."
Oh.
Uh-huh. Now, for those of you who don't know what a coroner's inquest is, say, for example, if you're normal and you don't literally fall asleep every night listening to murder cases.
Who does that?
Oh, well, don't worry about it. Allow me to explain. It's basically like a preliminary investigation to figure out how someone died and whether charges should be filed.
Okay.
So it's not normally something that is done for the public to like spectate on, as you'd imagine. It's not a trial. Nobody's getting convicted. It's just supposed to be about gathering the facts while they're fresh. The problem is inquests are way less formal than trials, and defendants don't have the same protections. Like, you would still bring Sam Sheppard in and talk to him about what happened, but he's not under oath. He was not allowed to have his attorney represent him during the questioning, which is actually really fucked up. Like, whether you think he did it or not, like, you shouldn't be having to answer questions to the authorities when you're not allowed to have your lawyer present.
True.
That's messed up.
Yeah.
This absolute circus of an inquest wasn't held in a courtroom or even like any type of government building. Unless you think about the fact that Normandy High School is probably run by the state.
Oh, high school?
Yeah. Dr. Gerber decided to hold it at the Normandy High School gymnasium to accommodate all of the reporters and the public that wanted to sit in on it.
Oh, some spectacle.
Yeah. The bleachers was packed. The coroner turned what should have been a fact-finding mission into a public hanging, basically. Like,
sure.
Not great. Sam was forced to answer questions without his lawyer present, like I mentioned, in front of the whole town. Hundreds of people were there. While reporters scribbled down every word. Like, I'm sorry? What?
It's crazy.
That's not appropriate at all. Like, it's a murder investigation. If people were allowed to sit in on those, like, I wouldn't be here right now. That's not right. Like, that's messed up. I just, it's kind of a lot to process. And I've genuinely never heard of anything like that in my life.
No, I don't think I have either.
Just bizarre.
Yeah.
Now, during this 3-day inquest extravaganza, Sam made what would turn out to be one of his larger mistakes. He was questioned about his relationship with a 24-year-old lab technician at Bayview Hospital named Susan Hayes, and he denied having an affair with her. Unfortunately, that was a lie.
Uh-oh.
The cops had never heard her name before this inquest, so then they had to fly out to California to track down Susan, and she spilled all the tea.
Oh, no.
Yes, they'd been having an affair when they worked together at Bayview, and things had not fully ended after she moved all the way across the country. In fact, he'd flown out to visit her, and they'd taken a trip to Los Angeles together earlier this same year.
Well, I can't blame the guy for not disclosing this just all willy-nilly, because that's really bad.
Yeah, but you definitely shouldn't bring it up when your lawyer's not present to tell you to shut the fuck up.
No.
Because now the prosecution has their motive.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. On July 30th, 1954, the same day, actually, the Cleveland Press ran their "Why Isn't Sam Sheppard in Jail" headline. Sam Sheppard was put in jail.
Oh,
arrested and charged with murder. The trial began on October 18th that same year, and it was an absolute shit show from start to finish.
Perfect.
Right. I mean, it's exactly what you expect at this point, right? The judge, Edward Blythen, seemed more interested in accommodating the press than in ensuring a fair trial. Now, let me give you like just a quick list of some examples of how incredibly mishandled this trial was.
Okay.
The jury was not sequestered. Their names, addresses, and photographs were published in the newspapers.
Oh, that's not good.
No. Reporters were given seats inside the bar right in front of the jury box. The courtroom was so packed with press that participants had to fight through the crowds to get in. Like the witnesses who needed to actually be there were having to like elbow their way to the front like a mosh pit.
Wow.
Local radio stations were broadcasting play-by-play coverage like it was a damn football game.
This sounds like, honestly, this sounds, I mean, it sounds kind of like the OJ trial.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Like, but it's 1954, and this guy is not famous. This is not a Hall of Fame, like, football player. What are we talking about?
Well, it was Ohio, so maybe he was Ohio OJ famous.
You know, no, but I appreciate the effort.
Well,
yeah. I just like to think about it from a juror's perspective. Not only is there like this whole press box separating you from the rest of the room, but they are putting your face out there every day. Like if you vote in a way the public disagrees with, they know your face, they know your name, they have your home address.
Yeah, that's really bad.
You really have no choice, like if you care about yourself at all, but to kind of vote with the public opinion.
Yep.
The prosecution's case was entirely circumstantial, but it was strong. They argued that Sam's story didn't make sense because it doesn't.
Yep.
And on top of like the kind of obvious things we've already talked about, there's like smaller details like why was there no sand in his hair if he'd been knocked unconscious on the beach and had been like tussling?
Okay.
Where was the missing t-shirt he'd been wearing when Marilyn was beaten? Like that's the t-shirt that was gone.
Yeah.
Possibly covered in blood from killing his wife. But it just so happened that the guys stole his t-shirt, like I guess as a souvenir. I don't know.
Well, it's evidence.
Sure.
Gotta take the shirt.
Well, there's also more like actual substantial evidence to contend with. Forensics suggested the killer had washed up due to the blood being found in the plumbing. So like whoever it was had like washed their hands, their face, whatever, and they found some of Marilyn's blood in the pipes, pointing to someone familiar with the house. And of course, the affair with Susan Hayes, like that's your motive for why he would have done this.
That is a motive, yeah.
The defense countered with medical evidence. They brought in Dr. Charles Elkins, a neurosurgeon, who testified that Sam had suffered serious injuries that couldn't be faked, including a fractured vertebra, nerve damage, and absent reflexes on his left side. It's like, that's pretty compelling. I mean, that can happen if you've been knocked unconscious twice in one night.
Yeah.
Either way, didn't matter. The press had already convicted him before he was even arrested. The jury kind of has no choice but to go with public opinion.
Yeah.
Now, there's also this famous story, though it didn't come out until years later. This is a problem. Judge Blythen was overheard telling newspaper columnist Dorothy Kilgallen, "It's an open and shut case. He's guilty as hell."
Oh.
The judge said this to a journalist during the trial.
That's not good.
That's not good at all.
That's not great.
No. On December 21st, so 2 months later, the jury found Sam Sheppard guilty of second-degree murder.
Egad.
Yeah. He was sentenced to life in prison.
Uh-huh.
But here's where the story takes yet another turn. Sam spent the next decade in the Ohio penitentiary while his attorney filed appeal after appeal. All of them were rejected. Makes no sense to me. They obviously had grounds for appeal, but okay. Then his attorney died in 1961. They had to find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Sheppard decided to hire a young, ambitious lawyer named F. Lee Bailey. The same guy who would later defend Patty Hearst, the Boston Strangler, and Orenthal James Simpson himself.
Oh.
Yeah. If F. Lee Bailey sounds familiar, he was OJ's lawyer.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And this is how he got his start.
Okay.
So he has a type.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Bailey took a completely different approach. Instead of focusing on whether Sam was guilty or innocent, he did what should have been done the first time and attacked the absolute circus that the trial became.
Yeah.
That was not a fair trial by any stretch of the imagination. In 1964, a federal judge agreed with him, calling the original trial a mockery of justice that violated Sam's right to due process. The state appealed, but Bailey took it all the way to the Supreme Court. And in 1966, in an 8-1 decision, the court absolutely eviscerated the way the trial had been conducted. Justice Tom C. Clark wrote that bedlam reigned at the courthouse and that the trial judge had lost his judicial serenity. Which I am assuming is a harsh burn if you're a judge.
Oh, he got cooked.
Oh my God. Now, to be clear, the Supreme Court didn't rule on Sam's guilt or innocence. They they don't really take a lot of murder trials. They ruled that he had not received a fair trial because of the media circus.
Mm-hmm.
This decision, Sheppard versus Maxwell, literally changed how high-profile trials are conducted in America.
Oh.
It established rules about changing the venue when local prejudice is too strong, sequestering juries in high-profile cases. The OJ jurors will not thank you for that. Limiting press access to protect a defendant's rights, and the ability for judges to issue gag orders.
Okay.
Ohio had to either retry Sam or let him go. They chose to retry him in 1966 because they were like, absolutely not. This time, it was completely different. The judge strictly limited press access, the jury was sequestered, and Sam didn't even take the stand. This was like night and day from that first trial.
Right.
After less than a day of deliberation, the jury found him not guilty.
Oh, damn.
Mm-hmm. Because, again, and this is something that, like, it can be, especially if, like, a lot of the procedural things you see are on television or movies, it can be kind of hard to understand. But the point of the trial is not to say whether this guy did it or not. It's to say whether there is enough evidence to say this person definitely did it and there's zero doubt in my mind that they did it. That's
Right.
when you get not guilty, or that's when you get like a guilty verdict. It's like zero doubt. But if there's even like a hint of a reasonable doubt, not guilty. That's what the jury's supposed to do.
Right. You're not declaring someone innocent.
Right.
You are declaring them guilty or not guilty, and that doesn't mean innocent.
Yes.
That just means not enough evidence to determine guilt.
And yeah, that is like the hardest pill to swallow with the OJ thing. We know this man killed her. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I will stand by that forever. But not guilty was the appropriate verdict because there was reasonable doubt.
All because of that glove.
The glove and like the super racist cop. But we don't really need to go into that today. That's the last entry in this series is the OJ trial. So here's the thing about being accused of murdering your pregnant wife. Even if you're acquitted, that shit sticks to you forever.
Yep.
Sam's life was completely destroyed. His son Chip, who was only 7 when his mother was murdered, had grown up with a father in prison for her murder. Sam tried to go back to practicing medicine, but was sued for malpractice after one of his patients died in his care. So that's not great.
Yep.
If you're wondering what he decided to do with his life after that, well, he went into the exact line of work you'd probably guess. That's right. He became a pro wrestler known as the Killer Sheppard.
Oh.
Not a cute look, if I'm honest. Probably would have picked a different name.
I was going to think politics or news anchors, but I guess going into news only would have happened after like the 2000s.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
There was no Fox News network at this time, so
he became a pro wrestler.
He became a pro wrestler called the Killer Sheppard.
That is the Killer Sheppard.
Yeah, the Killer Sheppard.
Oh,
that's not cute.
That's not cute.
You can't do that.
No.
Woof.
Yeah. Oh.
He married and divorced twice more, so at least they made it out alive, and basically drank himself to death, dying of liver failure in 1970 at age 46.
Ugh.
Yeah. But the story doesn't end there. In 1989, Chip decided he was going to clear his father's name once and for all. Now, y'all, this has me messed up. DNA testing in the late 90s suggested that the blood found at the scene was not Sam's and might have belonged to Richard Eberling, a window washer who had worked at the Sheppard home and who was later convicted of another murder.
Oh.
There's a very strong possibility Sam did not do this and he was telling the truth.
And there was really a form.
There was really a form. There was really a bushy-haired intruder.
That knocked him out
twice. And I guess escaped by sea with his blouse.
Yes.
Now, if you think about it, maybe that guy took Sam's shirt because his own shirt was covered in blood. There's a reasonable explanation for that. The pants are halfway pulled down because the shirt was tucked in. Like, there's explanations for, like, if you think about it, the fact that this DNA evidence shows that this murderer was in their house. That's compelling.
Oh, my God.
In response, the Sheppard family sued Ohio for Sam's wrongful imprisonment, but a civil jury sided with the state. To this day, the murder of Marilyn Sheppard remains officially unsolved. So here's the $1 million question. Did Sam Sheppard kill his wife? After 2 trials with opposite verdicts, decades of investigation, and DNA testing, we still don't know for certain.
Right.
That guy was working at their house. I don't know how his blood would have gotten inside the house, but maybe he went inside to use the bathroom. We don't know.
Went inside to use the bathroom.
I mean, it could have been anything. We don't know. What we do know is that the media circus surrounding his trial was so out of pocket that it literally changed American law.
That's crazy.
Yeah. This case is why judges can issue gag orders, why juries get sequestered, why high-profile trials will, like, always pretty much get moved to a different town or different city because the people around you have heard about it and they're going to be biased.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time a judge has to manage media coverage of a trial, they're probably thinking about what happened to Sam Sheppard. And honestly, like, even with all these protections in place, we still turn high-profile trials into media spectacles.
Of course.
Like, putting all these laws in place only did so much. Like, you can go on YouTube right now and watch every single second of the O.J. Simpson trial. It is like hours and hours and hours. It's still there to be watched. We were watching it live back in the 90s because we're old people.
Well, I wasn't because I wanted to watch cartoons.
Well, I was because I've always been a ghoul.
Yeah.
That's a super bummer. So let's end on a fun fact. I actually have one.
Oh.
So if this whole story sounds like a little bit familiar, like there's just kind of a scratch at the back of your mind and you can't really get it. Like I promise you're not going crazy. A doctor accused of killing his wife, claiming there was a mysterious intruder and escaping to find the real killer. That's the plot of The Fugitive. Both the 1960s TV show and the Harrison Ford movie.
Oh.
The writers and producers have like always denied that they based it on Sam Sheppard, but like it's literally all right there. The whole plot is there. It's laid out, except that Sam didn't escape. He was acquitted.
Right.
So enjoy that. It's you can picture, go back and listen to this whole episode again, not just for a numbers boost, but so you can imagine Harrison Ford the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And instead of waking up on the beach, he jumps out of a sewage drain.
Yeah, what was it? It was like a huge, like a culvert of some kind. But
I don't remember.
Tommy Lee Jones was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today while we dove into this absolutely bonkers case.
Wow.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a second to rate, review, and subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're using. You can find us on Instagram and Threads at Fantastic HPod, on YouTube and TikTok at Fantastic History Podcast, or you can email us at fantastichistorypod@gmail.com. Until next time.
Bye.